It is once again time for the biggest gaming event of the year, E3, where game developers from far and wide go up on stage in front of hundreds of eager gamers with only two goals in mind: showcase the latest exciting games that they have in store, and try not to evacuate their bowels in the process. I had a lot of fun doing this last year, so I thought why not do it again this year. Hopefully I'm not as late with my opinions this time. Just like before, I'll only be covering the parts that interest me the most, so if there's something that I do miss out on talking about, I'm sorry, but it just wasn't for me. EA is starting things off once again, even though they're more E3 adjacent nowadays. I must confess that I skimmed through a lot of the presentation, as they're mainly focusing on 6 games this year, and most of them I don't really care for. Besides, have you seen how long this show is? 3 hours? Do you think the E in your name stands for Endgame? Ugh. Anyway, each game gets a half-hour time slot to show off what they've got. Thankfully, the only one I'm interested in, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, was first up. It seems pretty alright, looking like a linear-based action-adventure game similar to Force Unleashed with a little bit of Tomb Raider platforming thrown in for good measure. It looks well put together, but honestly doesn't really feel that interesting. I think we've just gotten too many Star Wars games where you play a Jedi with a lightsaber in that, and I only kind of wish that this was a bit more like a Star Wars version of Dark Souls. I do love that little robot though. It's adorable and I want one of my own. As for the other games they showed, well, I've played Apex Legends, but I'm not a big fan of Battle Royale games. Well, good at them for that matter. I'm not really interested in Battlefield, and I really don't care for sports games, no matter how many Trevor Noahs you throw at me. Gonna say though, the Sims 4 expansion looks rather nice. Like the island theme it's got going for it. It's also good that they've got some actual hosts to interview the developers, instead of making them stand up and present the game themselves, as it gives a more natural feeling to the presentation. Although I wasn't a big fan of the host during the Star Wars segment, Greg Miller. He was just way too enthusiastic, and kept shouting like every other sentence, even though he had a microphone right next to his mouth. Do you think you can bring it down a notch, dude? Overall, I thought it was a step up for EA this year, but it just lasted way too long. Did they really need 3 hours for 6 games? And hell, half of them were just announcing new DLC. I mean, maybe Sims gets a pass, as it's more like a new game / expansion, which is different, I guess? I will acknowledge EA donating $1 million to bullying prevention charities. That's a cool thing. But in that same vein, I will bring up how the stream crashed during an interview with one of the Anthem devs, which is apparently a recurring theme with that game. Thankfully, Microsoft is here to properly kick off the E3 conference, stating that they would be showcasing 60 games. That's 10 times the amount EA showed in half the time. What's more, over half of them will be debuting on Xbox Game Pass, which is now being made for PC users with a nice little package deal for them as well. For the games on show, there was Bleeding Edge, a team-based melee-combat game that had a cavalcade of unique-looking characters. Buttercup's my favourite. She's a giant woman that turns into a motorcycle. What's not to love? Minecraft Dungeons was an interesting surprise, being a Diablo-inspired dungeon crawler that offers a little more freedom with your playstyle.
Get lost, Squidward!
Announced last year, Battletoads gets a proper reveal this time, with a Saturday morning cartoon art style that fits in rather well with its wild and out there gameplay. On the flip side of that, we have 12 Minutes, which has you take part in a time travel murder mystery where you leap through the events of the last few minutes as your wife is being accused of murder. It's like a dark twisted version of Groundhog Day, all taking place within one apartment, and I'm a big fan of this concept. We also got a story trailer for Cyberpunk 2077, nothing that special, but it's nice that they take the time to keep us updated on what? Keanu Reeves! Keanu Reeves is in this game! And immediately after that reveal, the man himself appears on stage from a heavenly light as if announced by God himself. He talks to the crowd, including this little interaction.
You're breathtaking!
Announces the release date, and then, just like that, he was gone, like a thief in the night. But that wasn't the only surprise guest appearance that night. Tim Schafer arrived to a literal fanfare, as not only had Microsoft announced their acquisition of Double Fine Productions, damn it, they are gaming's Disney, aren't they? But to also show off a new trailer for Psychonauts 2. And from the looks of things, it definitely looks like a proper sequel to the original game, which I have to confess I also haven't played. Yeah, I continue a long list gag from last time, but I think it's long enough already. After an odd trailer for Gears 5, which is part of the course of this series, the stage then suddenly explodes, revealing a dark, creepy underbelly. Also, they could announce the new Escape multiplayer mode for the game. Also, Terminator pre-order, just because. Although that shot does look badass, like it should be on the cover of a heavy metal album. Here we go, the typical Forza presentation, the fancy car on stage for no reason, the bright shiny graphics, the LEGO cars streaming by, the Everything Is Awesome remix blasting out the what? Yeah, Forza now has LEGO in it apparently, and the car on stage is made entirely out of LEGO. Okay, that's pretty cool. The teased George R.R. Martin game is revealed to be called Elden Ring. And that's all we get. Not the first time George R.R. Martin fans have been disappointed this year. As the conference came to a close, we got more news about Project xCloud, Microsoft's game streaming service that will compete with Google Stadia, and the news that the new Halo Infinite game will debut next year on the new Project Scarlet console. A new console that we've still yet to see a physical version of. Ah well, maybe next year. It's fair to say that Bethesda had a lot of explaining to do going to their press conference, and unfortunately, they didn't do much to clear the air. Todd Howard actually started off the show this year by acknowledging there had been some problems with the way they handled Fallout 76, but they plan on fixing this issue with their new DLC that would add main storyline quests, human NPCs, and quote, full dialogue trees. Essentially what should have been in the game from the very start. At least they're giving it out for free, and throwing in a Battle Royale mode as well. But that wasn't the only disappointing thing Bethesda had on offer, as they announced they were bringing back their classic Commander Keen series as a mobile game. A very bad looking mobile game. I mean, the flashy 90s cartoon intro trailer was pretty rad, but the game itself looks like one of those throwaway mobile titles that you just scroll past in the Play Store. Speaking of scrolling, Elder Scrolls. Whilst there was no news about Elder Scrolls 6, they did announce some upcoming expansion on Elder Scrolls Online, complete with fancy CGI trailer, a new mobile game called Legends, and that their Blades game is now out on Nintendo Switch and will be cross-platform compatible with the mobile version. I wish there was more to talk about, but sadly not. What I do want to talk about is Ghostwire Tokyo, an action-adventure paranormal horror game made by Shinji Mikami's studio Tango Gameworks. Sadly, the trailer itself, whilst incredibly detailed, didn't reveal any hints about its gameplay. However, the best part of the presentation was creative director Ikumi Nakamura. She was like a breath of fresh air amongst the stilted, heavily scripted performances of the other speakers. She was bubbly, she was animated, and she came across as very genuine and heartfelt. She really does seem like an anime character come to life. She was definitely the highlight for this entire conference. Though I should probably talk about the rest of the conference. Wolfenstein Youngblood looks good, as does the VR game Cyberpilot. Deathloop has an intriguing premise of two assassins caught in a time loop. Oh, and they showed off their online streaming service Orion, which they demonstrated by playing the previous title of the last game they were talking about tonight. And that game is... My doctor told me to stop doing that. Doom Eternal. There was a lot of gameplay to be shown off here. We got to see the Doom guy doing crazy parkour, air dashes, bashing through walls, using a grappling hook, nice, setting off insane traps, and of course, slaughtering demons in oh so many violent ways. We also got a look at the new multiplayer mode, the Battle Mode, which is a 2-on-1 deathmatch between 2 demon players and 1 Slayer player. Hopefully this fares better than other titles in the past. This was far from Bethesda's best showing. It was kind of a low bar show with very few peaks throughout. They also had this strange talking heads video shown throughout the night of Bethesda employees talking about their love of gaming and in particular their love of the company. It seemed quite heartfelt, but at the same time felt like the company was trying to big itself up. To sum up this entire presentation in 2 words, damage control. Devolver Digital just didn't really work for me, and I won't be coming back for next year's show. Well, despite what I said then, I did decide to give Devolver Digital a second chance, and honestly it was not as bad as last year. This time they were poking fun at companies that do pre-recorded events instead of a live stage presentation, directly parodying Nintendo Direct. I admit some of the shots they took were quite funny, but then some parts would go on a little bit too long. It's no longer an unfunny college humor skit, and is now more like a slightly less funny Smosh skit. As for the games, well now they've got 6 on offer this time. Fall Guys looks like a colourful fun party game inspired by game shows like Takeshi's Castle. Developer Bootleg I thought was another joke at first, but is actually a collection of faux bootleg games based on some of their other games. Carrion is a terrifying 2D horror title about a parasite breaking out of a laboratory and going on a rampage. Enter the Gungeon is getting a light gun inspired arcade title with an actual arcade cabinet being released, some DLC for the Messenger entitled Picnic Panic, and an extended train demo from my friend Pedro, right before the presentation goes weird again. I thought they did a better job this time, both with the humour and not taking time away from their games. However, I'm still not a big fan of their style of humour. But I didn't hate it as much as last time. However, like last year, I had a lot of fun watching Limited Run's presentation. While their stage has gotten a bit of an upgrade this time, there's still the same hallmarks from last year. Paper-thin audience with members of the team popping up now and then, badly done green screen, cheesy special effects, hokey acting, and fun, goofy tongue-in-cheek stuff. Some highlights include one of the hosts literally turning into a Nintendo Switch, and another host beating up a stagehand with a bunch of PS Vitas. Speaking of which, they announced that with the production of Vita cartridges coming to an end, they will also be ceasing production on games for the Vita. This year's selection of new games includes the likes of Nights in the Woods, Guacamelee, Super Meat Boy, Papers, Please, Rogue Legacy, Freedom Planet, Red Faction, Corpse Killer, Double Switch, Turok 1 and 2, and a whole host of classic LucasArts games, starting with Star Wars Bounty Hunter. They also announced a few collector's editions, including ones for Power Rangers Battle of the Grid and Shenmue 3. Not too much to say here, the presentation did its job and had fun while doing it. Moving on. Ubisoft this year was kind of like the inverse of Bethesda. Started strong, but went downhill very quickly. It began in quite a classy fashion, with the Assassin's Creed Symphony performing a short suite of music from the series. Very nice.
Indeed.
This was followed up by their first game, Watch Dogs Legion, this time set in a government-controlled dystopian London, complete with badly put on British accents. New to this series is the ability to recruit practically anyone in the city, and use their unique skills to help you on missions, from hoodlums to police officers to spies to ex-cons and even pensioners. I especially got a kick out of watching Old Lady Helen, or as I like to call her, Grandma Wick. I also enjoyed the dry wit of helpful AI Bagley. At first I thought the idea of not having a central character to focus on might be an issue, but it does look like that the people you recruit have lots of personality to make up for this, which makes the permadeath feature of this game especially harrowing. From there we're introduced to actor Rob McElhenney, who's advertising a new TV show called Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet, a comedy set in a game publishing studio. Odd to advertise a TV show at a game convention, but I guess where else could he advertise it? He wasn't the only celebrity to show up, as John Bernthal arrived on stage, accompanied by a dog for some reason. And that reason is, shut up, his name is Bam Bam and he's a good boy. Anyway, John's here because he's starring in the new Ghost Recon game, Breakpoint, the follow-up to Wildlands. This almost makes up for the lack of any gameplay trailers. But we did get news of a community website called Delta Company, so that balances it out? They announced there would be a beta for the game and... oh, hello again, Terminator. You in this game too? Hey, Sam Fisher's back! In a mobile game called Elite Squad. Yeah, I think Suicide Squad got a better reaction than this. Hey, there's that panda again. I guess this means Just Dance 20 is coming to the Wii. Wait, the Wii? The Wii? What the fuck? For Honor is a new event coming in the form of Shadows of the Hitokiri. Next we have a trailer for Rainbow Six Quarantine, which looks to be another first-person zombie shooter. Yeah, we haven't had enough of those yet, have we? Then we go right to the Division 2, and okay, shall we just call this Tom Clancy's Ubisoft from now on? This is like the 5th Tom Clancy game we got from them. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. Anyway, along with the announcement of future DLC for the game, we're also informed that the planned Division movie will be released on Netflix, which is almost as awesome as that guy's Skullcat t-shirt. After that, Ubisoft announced their own subscription service, a new game called Roller Champions, which I guess is their take on Rocket League, and a CGI trailer for a new game called Gods and Monsters. Honestly, Ubisoft was very disappointing. Most of the big reveals was just DLC for games they already had out, and aside from Watch Dogs, we didn't really learn that much about their new games. You can bring in all the celebrities you want, but that doesn't guarantee a successful show. Also, you didn't have Anti-Overseer dressed up as Super Dave crashing through a podium. I will forgive you for that if you send me that Skullcat shirt. Okay, now on to Sony and... What do you mean Sony dropped out this year? Well, who do we have instead? Kinda Funny Games? Okay, well, who's hosting that? Oh. For Honor. Okay, so Kinda Funny is this online entertainment company that does podcasts, sketch shows, live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. It was founded by a group of former IGN employees, including this guy, Greg Miller, the shouty man from the EA stream. Now, he's not as bad here as he was then, but he's got this weird, awkward comedy thing that I'm not a huge fan of. If you like his comedy, that's fine, more power to you, but it's not my thing. The presentation itself is not too bad. It's actually a showcase of some indie titles with a few small skits interspersed throughout. Though honestly, I have very little interest in the indie market, as a lot of them are so similar in design that they tend to blend into each other. There's only so many times you can see a game with the same 3D indie pop art style. Having said that, there were a few games that caught my eye, like Falcon Age, because that bird is cute. Trigger Witch gives me Link to the Past vibes. Freedom Finger's art style reminds me of Yellow Submarine. Undermine could possibly be a new Moonlighter. Brave Earth Prologue looks inspired by Castlevania. Lucifer Within Us has an interesting premise in playing with different timelines, and Superliminal is just a fun, trippy puzzle game. All in all, I suppose it's good that we do have a showcase for titles like these. They're fun, creative, and not bogged down by giant conglomerates demanding that they fit a certain formula. I just have to remember next time to skip through the parts that I don't like. Don't you yell at Tim Schafer like that. He gave us Monkey Island, and Grim Fandango, and Sesame Street Once Upon a Monster. I'm not even kidding, look that up. Now we come to Square Enix, who waste no time at all and go straight into the Final Fantasy VII Remake. We got an in-depth look at how the combat system works, which essentially builds upon the mechanics from Final Fantasy XV. We saw gameplay from Cloud and Barrett, with a sneak peek of Tifa and Aerith in action. Not like that. And a full boss fight that shows just how important it can be to be tactical and strategic during a battle. The game is apparently still being planned around an episodic release schedule, but the first part will be released on March 3rd, and will cover 2 Blu-ray discs following the events in Midgar. While we're here, we might as well cover the rest of the Final Fantasy news. Crystal Chronicles has been remastered for consoles and mobile devices. We get more information on the Shadowbringers expansion for Final Fantasy XIV. Brave Exvius gets a spin-off in the form of War of the Visions, and after waiting for so long, Final Fantasy VIII is finally getting remastered. Enough Final Fantasy for you? Let's talk about Dragon Quest then. Dragon Quest Builders 2 gets a huge in-depth gameplay trailer that pretty much expands on everything from the first game, giving you a bigger world to explore, more items to craft, and tougher challenges to face. Plus you can play with up to 4 players, both online and offline. This looks like a great expansion of the first game, and I'm really looking forward to this. There's some DLC coming for Kingdom Hearts 3, which may give a deeper look into the inner turmoil within Organization 13. But at least this one's name is easy to pronounce. We also saw a remaster announcement for The Last Remnant, a spring release date for Dying Light 2, Western releases for Square's Saga games, and of course Square Enix has their own streaming service for... music? Okay, that's different, but still cool. The conference rounds off with Marvel's Avengers. The story does seem to have more than a few passing similarities to the MCU, but it's not a direct tie-in, and at least they're not rehashing the Infinity Gauntlet plot again. While the trailer was made using footage from the in-game engine, there was very little gameplay to be seen. What I'm hoping for is that each character has a different playstyle from the rest. Imagine it, you could fly around as Iron Man, cast lightning as Thor, sneak through areas as Black Widow, or just wreck things with the Hulk. And you can imagine the possibilities you could have with a 4-player co-op game, especially with the idea of new heroes and content coming out regularly for free. Let's just hope there's no dark threat lurking on the horizon come May 15th. It seems that the theme tying Square Enix's show together this year was trailers with gameplay. Almost every game they had to show was accompanied by some sort of gameplay, even for games that were just being ported to a new console. I think it's a lesson that certain other developers should learn from. Finally we come to Nintendo Direct, which opened with Smash Bros. Ultimate and revealed the next DLC character, the hero of Dragon Quest, with 4 different character skins as well. Oh, this is not another Fire Emblem character. You have enough already! Then we get a proper and rather humorous introduction to the new president of Nintendo of America, Doug Bowser. Let's hope you're up to the job. You've got some big shoes to fill. After which we get a more in-depth look at Luigi's Mansion 3, which seems to be emulating Ghostbusters a lot more this time as the game takes place inside a hotel. We see Luigi performing a few new moves on ghosts, the new Luigi ability which can help out in tricky situations, and the fun looking multiplayer mode Scare Scraper. You know, it's just occurred to me that I've never actually played Luigi's Mansion 2. I blame myself.
So do I.
Now here's something nobody expected, a video game based on the Dark Crystal. More specifically, a tactical RPG based on the upcoming Netflix series Age of Resistance. What could be more surprising than this? What was that? Anyway, we've got more gameplay for Link's Awakening, which is looking mighty cute, and has a release date of September 20th. And what's this? You can create your own dungeons as well? That's a nice idea, Nintendo, but not exactly an original one. To be honest, at this rate, the next Metroid game is going to come with a level creator. I wouldn't be against that though. Not too much was said on Pokemon Sword and Shield, seeing as they had their own direct not so long ago. The only new information we got was that the Pokeball Plus controller could be used to store your Pokemon from Sword and Shield. Moving on. We got an update for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 that showed off an expansion pack to include characters and content from Marvel Knights, X-Men, and Fantastic Four. We also got a sneak peek at No More Heroes 3, the surprise return of Panzer Dragoon and Contra, ports for The Witcher 3 and Resident Evils 5 and 6, and release dates for Daemon X Machina, Astral Chain, and Cadence of Hyrule. There was also some more info on the new Animal Crossing game New Horizons. Sadly, the game release is being pushed back to March so that a few tweaks can be made, which will no doubt annoy some people because it's been a long time since the last game and you can't wait to get into the exciting things they could do with a game like this. The nice peaceful island setting, up to 8-player co-op, being able to build your own slice of paradise, the crippling amount of death building up as you— Okay, seriously, what is that? What in the name of Miyamoto is going on around here? What, you got something else you want to say? Okay, but this had better be good. Oh, that shut me up. Holy cow. They actually did it! Banjo-Kazooie is in Smash Bros. This is a huge deal. Ever since Rare left Nintendo for greener pastures, we thought we would never see Banjo back in the Nintendo console. After a failed attempt to recapture the magic on Xbox, there has been speculations about when we'd see the Bear and Bird duo again on the Nintendo console. He had become one of, if not the most requested character to appear in Smash Bros. For the longest time. And now after a pretty hilarious fake-out trailer, they are actually here, and everyone is ecstatic. This could mean so much. Maybe the classic Banjo-Kazooie games are coming to Switch? Maybe a new game could be in the works? And if they can make it into Smash, who knows what other characters could possibly turn up? This might be the greatest day in Nintendo history. Banjo and Kazooie are back and raring to go. Oh, and Breath of the Wild is getting a sequel. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Nintendo won this year.
Indeed.